Hi everybody, it's Sandy Smith-Leyva, and this is another weekly brain food for accounting leaders. I want to talk about one that I label bear or boss. It doesn't make any sense yet, all right, so hang with me, and it's within the realm of possibility. Our brain has a one-track mind, and our brain cares most about our survival. When we see a bear or a saber-toothed tiger back in the caveman days, our entire body mobilized to save our lives. It's very similar today, but in the 21st century, we have a completely different set of threats. What's interesting about it is that it doesn't have to be a saber-toothed tiger anymore. It could be anything that generates fear or negative emotions in our brain. For example, it could, instead of a bear, it could be a boss. It could be a bear or a boss. It could be a mean boss, someone who snapped at us. We feel very threatened by that. Could be an unhappy child. Could be a traffic accident. Could be a low checkbook balance. Could be a rude clerk. All of those things, they disturb us. They get us upset. And what happens is our brain cares about keeping us safe. It cares about any threats to our survival. And all of those things are 21st century threats to our survival. They're a little bit different in scope and in nature, and obviously we are not going to die from a low checkbook balance, but our brain tricks us into thinking that. And so the one-track mind in our brain is survival. And the thing about a bear or a boss is a bear certainly triggers your fight or flight response, but the emotion is the exact same when you're interacting with your boss. You feel threatened because it feels like a threat to your survival, your social survival. So your brain, when it comes to fear, is very, very alerted to that. And through decades and centuries and millennia of genetics and progression, we have ended up with an evolutionary exaggeration of these threats in order to get our attention. So the person who could mobilize the fastest and run from the bear would be the person who survived. So we've evolved to actually exaggerate these threats. So when the boss is mean to us, when the child is unhappy, with that traffic accident, all of those things get exaggerated in our mind. The result is that we have asymmetrical emotions. We feel negative emotions much stronger than positive emotions. And what's complicated is it's hard to balance out because our brain is just so wired to get our attention and to keep us alive, which is a good thing, except that it's maybe not so much of a good thing in some cases because it's also designed to keep us very, very safe and not taking risks. So these are what I mean by negative and positive emotions: fear, anger, pride, anxiety, depression, grief are just a couple examples of negative emotions, emotions that are going to keep us alive and mobilize us, right? And then positive emotions, we don't feel those as much. So as far as feeling love, we can definitely feel love, but we never feel love as strong as we feel fear in the same situation. So we remember the fear because that's what is the threat. Love is not the threat. It's the safe thing. Fear is the threat, so we are exaggerated with that. So the brain is stingy about this. The other thing about this, besides the asymmetry, is that it only wants us to use resources that will keep us safe. It is completely designed to be this threat alerter and threat detector for our safety. So if you end up wanting to use your brain's resources for something else, your brain tends to make you feel uncomfortable. All right, it doesn't want you to take risks. It's designed for that. We're designed for survival. We are not designed for success, believe it or not. All right, so the bottom line of this is you're going to end up feeling uncomfortable doing new things, but it's okay. In the 21st century, we kind of need to do that, even though you're not wired for that. And what I think it's really, really comforting to remember is that it's just your brain trying to protect you. So the action items for today are 2. Learn how to balance your positive and negative emotions. Later we'll have something called the Gottman ratio. If we haven't already had it, we'll talk about that. And then also learn how to be uncomfortable with the fact that your brain is a little bit stingy. It's really okay. You're not going to die, even though you might feel like it. You can learn how to stretch a little bit. And part of stretching and growing is certainly being uncomfortable. All right, so that's today's Brain Food, and we'll see you next week.